Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to go over, my dash. This is for 1987 to 1991 that has the ribbon. I did a few different variations. I don't know, because I hate myself. But so anyhow, bear with me. I'm not very good at electric. So if you see something that seems kind of off, it probably is off. If you're like, why would you do that? Like, why would you use that eyelet or that whatever? Like, there you go. Preface: I'm not that good at it. I like it, but I'm not that good at it. If you got some tips for me, leave them in the comments. I see ohms and stuff like that, and I start to think of Lord Ganesha and the mouse and yoga and all sorts of stuff. But what started this whole entire thing was my voltmeter was reading 2 volts down. I got that sort of fixed, but then I decided to pull it out and fully hardwire it. And in doing that, I kind of chased my own tail because I'm not good at electric. And I tested a fuel gauge. And then also I wanted to upgrade the LEDs at the same time if I was going to hardwire it. Because if you've ever seen the ribbon, it's not that easy to upgrade your gauges or hardwire your gauges and keep the lighting. Plus, to be real honest, my lighting, it uses like little tabs, and I've had those on the actual stock ones, the sockets. You plug them in and twist them, and I've had those tabs kind of come loose because they're old or not hold the sockets very well, and so it starts to flicker. And there's also dead spots. So like one gauge will be bright up on top but dead down below, and then vice versa. And it just kind of drove me nuts. So I wanted to do actual strips. The strips are down below. I linked them in the comments. Same with the wiring I used from Amazon, all that stuff. So let's get into it. So to upgrade, what started this whole entire thing was to upgrade the voltmeter. So let's figure out the voltmeter first. Here it is, 8, 14, 18. So between 8 and 14, I mean, in theory, if that really is dead nuts on, the middle hash, so you'd have 8 to 14, which is 6 volts. The middle hash would be 11. And then the skinny hash between the middle one and the 14 would be 12 and a half. So I put on the accessories and I was reading at, so 8 to 11, I don't know, 9 and a half, something like that. And my battery was just fine at 12 and a half. Then I actually start the vehicle, and you can see my oil pressure go up, means vehicle's on. And I'm below 12 and a half. I'm at like, I don't know, 12 or something like that. And I'm at, my alternator and battery are reading 14.5. So the ribbon was taking up about 2 volts, give or take. And that just drove me nuts. So first things first, you got to take off your dash. You'll have 3 screws up on top, 3 screws in the middle in their own little holes, and then 2 tabs on the bottom. You can see the tab right here. There's one on either side. I just use a flathead, kind of twist it, and then pops out. And then your gauge cluster should have, disconnect your battery first. And then your gauge cluster should have 4 on the bottom and 2 on the sides. I think mine's held on by like 3 screws. They get lost, they're tiny. And then that comes out. So before I get too deep into this, I'm just going to show you what means what on the back. So if you just want to get a better reading on your voltmeter and not even hardwire anything, we'll just go through real quick what the back means. The black diamonds, the bolts are the grounds and the ground posts. The bombs that the black diamonds plug into, those are the ignition power on. So every single gauge, except for the clock, if you want to consider it a gauge, the clock has its full reading. That's why when the vehicle's off, it's still going. But all the other gauges, the other 4, they all use the bottom post to include the voltmeter, right? The top voltmeter does actually have some lines going through it from the ribbon. To be real honest, I don't know what they go to. I didn't track them down. It doesn't really matter. All it uses is the bottom post to get a signal of how many volts are going through it. So if you want the cheat sheet, I basically, and that's the white and black wire, that's the ignition on. I basically hardwired a wire directly from the black and white to the voltmeter, and this is what I got. Still not perfect. Start on accessories, it's still not reading 12.5. It's at about, I don't know, 11.5, something like that. And then when you turn it on, it gets closer to 14. So it's not perfect by any means. Now this volt gauge is actually at the end of a line. I'm not good at reading schematics, but basically this volt gauge is where the wire harness comes off. It's after a lot of stuff. I have the Haynes manual, and it didn't show me, or at least I couldn't. It just had the gauge package. Anyways, I don't know. Like I said, not very good at reading schematics anyhow. If you have a Haynes manual, you look in 1223, the section, and the gauge package there's a junction called A2 that's also connected to the defogger relay, defogger switch, the tachometer, emissions, maintenance timer, and indicator lamp. So it has a lot branched off, basically, and of course, all the gauges. So, that's probably why it's reading a little low. Plus, if that's linked to which it is, it's linked to the whole entire system in the end. So I put on my fog lights and things like that. It affects it. I jumpered it off, and here's why. We'll just get straight to the basics here of the connector, the stock connector. You have red, which is constant power on. That's for the clock. You have the orange black, which is the switch for the lights. You have the blue, which is the oil signal, which goes to the top of the oil signal. That's its resistance wire. The white black is the ignition feed, so that it goes to the bottom of the fuel, bottom of the oil, bottom of the volt, bottom of the temp. So that's what gives power to all the gauges. Brown is for the fuel signal. Black is negative, and that's for the lights, the clock, all the gauges, which is the center post of the black diamonds, everything. And then purple is the temp signal, right? So obviously, if you jumper off the white and black as shown, that's how you get a more direct line. So now that you have the schematics, we'll get into hardwiring it. So first things first, I pulled back out the dash all over again and the gauge cluster. Tracked it all down. The bottom posts we know are black and white, right? We already went through all that. We already went through all the colors. Here is, if you just so you don't kind of get lost, in reference to the gauges and the ribbon, this is where the colored wires go. All right, here's the face of the gauge. Be really careful with the plastic. I don't know, some of my tabs are already broken off because it's old, the clear plastic. That metal part has the metal face. It has little tabs that are bent too. Tabs are kind of supposed to keep it in place. And both those, the plastic and the metal face, it's directional. So like you don't mix them up. I mean, you can, but it's just not going to fit. So if you have a hard time putting it back together, that's why. It has 3 tabs on the bottom and 2 on the top, or something like that. The volt gauge, yeah, I'm still obsessed with the voltmeter. I took it apart. I read online that there is like a little adjustment on it. I couldn't find it. Now this is an aftermarket gauge, and that's another thing I should say. This is a new gauge, and I had an old gauge, obviously. And this is a new ribbon, and I had an old ribbon too, and both of them showed low on the voltmeter. So I don't know what to tell you. I had read that they were adjustable. There was some type of adjustment in the back, like a small screwdriver. I couldn't find it. And I've looked on my stock one too a long time ago. Wasn't there. This is an aftermarket. Tried to find it. Wasn't there again. So I lay in the LEDs. They were a little fat. Amazon said 4 millimeters, 0.157 inches. That was a lie. So getting the clock in is the worst because it's the fattest of them. I did one up on top, then cut 2 of them and put them on the bottom. Put in all the gauges. I mean, it's kind of nice because actually kind of the LED strips are so big, they kind of hold the gauges in. They're you got to finagle them in, but once they're in, they actually hold pretty well because they are so fat. So then I cut the head off of the stock harness, and I use it to basically find out what wire goes to what, but I already laid out the diagram for you guys in an easier fashion. Some of the wires are looped. I believe it's the orange and the black and the white and black on the actual head. So really you only have 7, but you'll see 9 wires basically, but 2 of them are just looped on the back of the stock harness. So I get my connectors out to make the new harness. And this right here is what I end up with. And I don't know if you noticed, but what I did was when I did the lights, I ended up doing the ground on its own. I wouldn't do that again. So I basically had 2 grounds when I originally did it. I had all the gauges on one ground, and I had the lights on their own ground. Well, that kind of messed me up because that's how I ended up testing a fuel gauge. So because I would plug in one ground and my lights would, or I put the ground on the back of the fuel gauge and leave one off, and then my lights would work. Oh, not my fuel gauge. And then I'd be like, what? And then I'd take it off and put another ground and without knowing, and then like my fuel gauge would work, but not my lights. I was like, what the hell's going on here? Like, anyhow. And so, yeah, I ended up chasing my own tail, which is why I tested a fuel gauge. How you test the fuel gauge is I had a spare battery. So the bottom one the bottom post should get 12 volts. We got that. The middle post with the bolt is the ground, and then it'll spike when it just has 12 volts. If you get another lead for resistance off the ground, so basically another ground wire, and start tapping the top to cause a resistance, it will actually start to show. So it's working. It sweeps all the way with just 12 volts of signal, and then when it starts to get resistance, it'll start wavering, going back and forth. So I figured that out, put it all back together, and in the end, my fuel gauge, or my voltmeter, it's still like the 12 and then 14 instead of the 12 and a half and 14 and a half. Whatever. I'm just going to live with it. Here's what my LED looks like at night. The strips, they look super bright in the picture. They're actually not that bright. They actually match very nicely with my gauges, my tachometer and speedometer. So that's nice. And there's no more dead spots around the gauges, and they don't flicker anymore because they're hardwired in, which I like, because that, like I said, they used to drive me bananas. There you go. That kind of long, but I have 4 hours of video. Like I said, I'm not very good at electric, and I redid some of the stuff, chased my own tail a lot. Hopefully this helps, especially the diagrams, and you screen grab it, print it, because my Haynes manual didn't really tell me what led to what. Anyhow, hope you enjoy. If you got some criticism, be like, what the hell did you do that for? Let me know, because honestly, I don't mind learning and doing a better job. I could totally redo it all. Don't care. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.